Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Assembly Judiciary. I'd like to welcome everyone here in Carson City, as well as those in Las Vegas and anyone watching online through Nellis or our legislative YouTube channel. With that, Secretary, please take the roll.
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Here.
Assemblywoman Cohen.
Here.
Assemblywoman Considine. Assemblywoman Gallant.
Here.
Assemblyman Gray.
Here.
Assemblywoman Hanson.
Here.
Assemblywoman Hardy. Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Here.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Here.
Assemblywoman Mosca.
Here.
Assemblywoman Newby.
Here.
Assemblyman Ortlicker.
Here.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Assemblyman Urick. Chair Miller.
Here. And please mark any members present when they arrive. With that, just a few housekeeping issues. Again, just a reminder for us all to turn down the volumes on our electronic devices that can make noise. We will have a public comment section at the end of today's meeting. And just a reminder for those that are planning to present bills next week that we appreciate if you get all of your exhibits in at 12 p.m. the day before. And please, again, refrain from any logos or anything with copyright concerns that we may have so that we're able to upload everything on Nellis. With that, today we have we have three presentations. So we will start with our first one is a presentation on an overview of the Nevada Supreme Court. We have Assistant Court Administrator from the Administrative Office of the Court, John McCormick, and Director of the Administrative Office of the Court, Catherine Stocks. And so with that, we are ready whenever you are, so please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. As you indicated, my name is John McCormick, John McCormick, and I'm the Assistant Court Administrator at the Supreme Court. And today we'll just sort of briefly be going over the judiciary and the Supreme Court. Happy to answer any questions, obviously. You'll see here, this is a map of our 11 judicial districts. As recently as 2007, we only had 9 judicial districts, but the 10th and the 11th there have been created in recent years to better provide access to justice for the citizens of those counties. And then again here, and there'll be a test on this slide because it's so easy to read. But this is actually a graphic that the AOC has produced that kind of shows how case flow exists, avenues of appeal for cases, and plus added in the obviously the appellate court, which is the most recently created court on here. This graphic is also available in our annual report, which I think we sent everybody, but if you need another copy, please let us know and be happy to bring one over. The judicial system, obviously, is the third branch of government, being separate and co-equal with the other two branches, the executive and the legislature, and that authority is found in the Nevada Constitution, Article 3, Section 1. The purpose of the judiciary is to resolve legal disputes fairly, timely, and impartially. And then again, we have multiple layers of courts. We have the appellate court, so the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals, and then the trial courts, the general jurisdiction trial court being the district court, and then what we call the limited jurisdiction courts, and that being justice and municipal court. On the Supreme Court, we have 7 justices, and they have staggered terms in terms of the election cycle. So you've got 2, 2, and 3 on cycle every 2 years in the general election. It is Nevada's final appellate court. It hears all appeals from the district court and then uses a push-down model to direct courts to the Court of Appeals. We can talk a little bit about that, but in Nevada Rule of Appellate Procedure 17, it sets forth conditions for screening cases to go to the Court of Appeals versus the Supreme Court. For example, all death penalty cases stay at the Supreme Court. Cases that are not cases of first impression, so they're settled law on it, tend to go to the Court of Appeals. In that vein, the Nevada Supreme Court serves as both a court of error correction, meaning that it reviews the actions of the district court below, and it is the Nevada court of last resort. So unless it's a federal constitutional issue, the Nevada Supreme Court is where the buck stops in terms of dealing with Nevada law in the court system. The Court of Appeals was created by constitutional amendment, vote of the people in 2014 and began in 2015. It's 3 judges serving 6-year terms. They're all on the same cycle. And again, as I indicated, the review of the cases is handled through a push-down model, which has allowed us to keep one clerk's office and divide our central staff, our central legal staff, into sort of 2 divisions, one that assists the Supreme Court and one that assists the Court of Appeals. So in that way, we were able to minimize the sort of startup work that we had to do to get the Court of Appeals up and going. And then the Court of Appeals a petitioner or an appellant may ask the Court of Appeals case to be reviewed by the Supreme Court, either en banc or in panels. And did forget to mention that with our 7 justices at the Supreme Court, they set either en banc, so all 7 of them, or in panels of 3, which allows to increase, obviously, case processing by hearing more cases. The district courts, which you'll hear from a little bit later, the 8th and the 2nd are 2 largest. We do have those 11 district courts. District courts derive their authority from Article 6, where all the sort of judicial branch stuff is in the Nevada Constitution, and then our NRS 3.010. So Chapter 3 is where you'll find the provisions related to district court. We have 90 district judges across the state for the 17 districts. They serve 6 terms. And they're all on the same election cycle now after action that was taken in 2007 by this body, because before, when additional judgeships were added, they were on a different cycle, so it got kind of messy in terms of knowing who was up and when it was up and pay equalization and those matters. Again, if there's a vacancy midterm on the district court, the Commission on Judicial Selection vets applicants and sends 3 names for the vacancy to the governor, and then the governor picks from those 3 names to fill the vacancy in the court. The district courts are what we call general jurisdiction courts, meaning that they hear everything at that trial court level: felonies, gross misdemeanors. They have exclusive juvenile jurisdiction pursuant to Title V of NRS. They hear civil disputes over $15,000 to no cap. And also the family courts handle the district courts handle family law matters. And in the 2nd, so Washoe County in the 8th, we have separate family benches that are dedicated to those family cases. In the rural districts, so the other 9, the district judge there does everything. They do family, criminal, and civil. And appeals from the district court go to the Supreme Court. And it's important to note here that the Nevada Supreme Court is different than, say, the United States Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court can grant certiorari, and so they can sort of pick and choose the cases they hear. In Nevada, under our constitutional scheme, all appeals go to the Supreme Court, and then we do that push-down model thing, but all appeals are heard. So there's no court discretion on hearing this case versus that case. Justice courts, these are our limited jurisdiction courts at the county level. We have 40 of them. Again, you'll see here the authority for those to exist and the number of justices of the peace, etc. Currently, we have 68 justices of the peace on a 6-year term. Vacancies midterm are filled by the county commission. The justices of the peace are sort of on multiple cycles, so it depends on which township you're in when that election occurs. The most recently added justice of the peace was a new seat at Sparks Justice Court. They reached the population threshold provided in Chapter 4, so they have an additional seat now. Excuse me, so there's 4 JPs there in Sparks now. Limited jurisdiction courts have misdemeanor jurisdiction over criminal matters and now, as of January 1st, civil traffic matters. They conduct preliminary hearings for gross misdemeanors and felonies, meaning they determine if there is a preponderance of the evidence that a crime was committed and that the defendant may have committed the crime. So then they bind those over, as we say, to district court for further proceedings. Civil disputes under $15,000 and small claims are heard in limited jurisdiction or in the justice court. The difference between sort of regular civil and small claims is a process that is more oriented to pro se, pro per litigants, and has sort of lessened rules of evidence and those type of things to try to resolve those matters. Also, justice courts handle protection orders and landlord-tenant cases, so eviction. A note on protection order cases: justice courts handle protection orders for stalking, harassment, sexual assault, harassment in the workplace, and protection of minors. And in the non-family court jurisdictions, they handle domestic violence protection orders. In the 2nd and the 8th, the family bench, so the district court family bench, handles protection orders. So that's a slight variation, and that actually matches how the high-risk, red flag, for lack of a better term, laws are handled. The justice courts handle those outside of Clark and Washoe counties, and the family bench handles that there in the large counties. Appeals from justice court decisions go up to the district court. We also have municipal courts. We have 17 of these courts. And the thing, just a note on municipal courts, is the Nevada Constitution is permissive as to their existence, provided by the legislature by city charter. They may be created. The other 2 courts, in terms of district and justice, are required. There are 31 judges at the municipal court level. 10 do double duty as the justice of the peace and the municipal court judge in communities like Mesquite, Carlin, and Fernley, for example. 6-year terms. There are a few non-elected municipal court judges who are appointed by city councils and mayors in some of our smaller communities, being Ely, Fernley, Yarrington, and Fallon. So again, that's going to be on the same test as the small print slide. And again, non-election vacancies are filled by the city council, et cetera. Limited jurisdiction, they do misdemeanor criminal cases and traffic cases, so both obviously the civil and criminal traffic cases, and appeals go to the district court. One of the biggest differences with municipal court is they have very limited civil jurisdiction versus, say, the justice court. Municipal courts their civil jurisdiction tends to deal with city matters, so appellate review of city review of city executive appeals office decisions, barking dog cases, utility collections, so that the civil jurisdiction there at the municipal court level is much more, is much smaller than at the justice court level.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Stocks, Katherine Stocks. Thank you for having me here today. Thank you, Mr. McCormick, for that summary. You'll see that this slide is about the administrative office of the courts. Our function is to be a support mechanism for not only the Supreme Court, but the trial courts of Nevada that might be resource low. And so we strive to be an influential and respected voice for the Nevada Judiciary. As part of that, you see here just quickly that it says that we provide accurate, timely, and relevant support to the users and stakeholders of our courts. That's really our focus is, just so you know, I do appreciate being here in person for the first time. I got here 2 years ago yesterday, and so my first experience with the legislature was all virtual. I really do appreciate being here and actually getting to meet the individuals that I saw on the screen. I also appreciate that Mr. McCormick will tell me what I am and am not supposed to do. So thank you for your indulgence with that. One of the biggest things we're really trying to focus on is the strategic plan that we started after the end of session in 2021. We received a grant to do that process. And that grant included interviews with all of the trial courts, their leadership, judges, employees, surveys across the state. We included the bar, nonprofits, and 3 major themes came out of that strategic plan. So what we are doing in this session is all related back to that strategic plan and the 3 umbrella goals that were identified by the users of our courts. The biggest initiatives that we are trying to do at the AOC are related to simplifying access to the courts. You know, how do we make it so that every Nevadan has an ability to get into the courts and is provided the tools to be able to navigate the courts without necessarily requiring an attorney. We want our Nevada attorneys to be at their highest and best use. We want those attorneys resolving the heavy disputes. If it's a simple administrative matter that needs to go through the courts, we want it to be easier for individuals to be doing that. We want our attorneys really focusing on the issues and disputes, and that goes with our judges as well. So that's our focus, is to identify ways that we can make it easier. So the 8th District will be speaking soon. They already have online guided interviews. Well, we don't have those necessarily for the whole state. That's something that we did. We requested significant federal funding through SLFRF, and those projects are part of what we're doing going forward. Since this is an overview session, we won't go into the weeds on that, but we are happy to talk in small groups, individually, whatever you would like to know about what we're doing related to opening the doors of the courts and having that view as an influential and respected voice for the judiciary of what it means to provide service to everyone that accesses our courts, through whether that be the facilities, whether that be online, or bringing the court to the individual instead of requiring them to come to the court. I think I'm done.
We're just waiting on you.
We yield our time. I don't know that we were on a clock.
Yeah.
To questions.
We don't have that. That's Congress. We don't have that here. But yeah, we just ask you to keep it to 15 minutes, so you're good. With that, are you both open to questions?
Yes.
Okay, so our first question will come from Assemblywoman Mosca.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for this informative presentation. You had stated that all of our cases are heard in appeals, so we're just wondering what is do we have an average amount annually, and then how long it takes those typically to go through?
Thank you. For the record, John McCormick, through you, Chair, or may I go directly? Please go directly. Thank you. Appeals, it obviously depends on the complexity of the case, how quickly they're reserved, and I'm ashamed to say this, but I do not remember the caseload off the top of my head. I will have to look that up in our annual report. However, yeah, anything that's appealed, it does go to either the Supreme Court or the Court of Appeals for resolution. And I think our backlog, quote unquote, is around 1,300 cases, which means there are 1,300 cases in the process for resolution right now, and so that's been brought down significantly with the creation of the appellate court. And again, I will get you a copy of the annual report that has that specific data.
Assemblywoman Bilberry Axelrod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you for being here. I, too, agree with you. I love being in person again. It's really nice to meet you as well in person. So you had mentioned that the death penalty cases go to the Supreme Court. Could you maybe just give us an overview of how that happens, how the process happens, the length of time? I mean, if you want to discuss the financial burden, but you don't have to because it's a policy committee.
Thank you for that. Catherine Stocks, for the record. When our Supreme Court, just like Mr. McCormick said, when they have cases, since they receive all of them, they do go directly to the Supreme Court. The Court of Appeals would not handle a death penalty case. One of the biggest time, because I'm wondering if you're concerned more about the time or the financial impact of a death penalty case.
Both.
Okay, so statistically, we can get you the information on the financial impact related to that of, we would need to reach out to our public defender's office and to the AG's office to get information from them about their financial expenses related to that. As far as the Supreme Court goes, we can see if we have that information on the financial impact related to the total salary. We don't have a team Within the court itself. We do have a criminal department for central staff. If you would like information on the amount of hours estimated from our central staff attorneys related to that, we're happy to get that for you. As far as it goes on the process, a lot of times when we show that there's pending cases, it's actually related to getting the briefings. The amount of time and energy it takes for attorneys to be able to properly brief a case like a death penalty case is significant. And that's where, while it might look like a backlog, it's actually the administrative work going on in the background that impacts how long it would take. The availability of information from the case in the record. It's my understanding that we have a good relationship with our trial courts for getting the official records up to the court on appeal. It can also just be sometimes the amount of time required for attorneys to be able to turn those briefs over and define their position on those appeals. But happy to follow up with significant answers. I apologize, I can't quote it off the top of my head today.
Thank you. Not at all. Thank you very much.
Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for this presentation and this excellent overview of our judiciary. We are a policy committee, but I just wondered, of all of the various courts and districts that you just listed, which of them are funded by the state and which ones are funded locally?
Thank you, John McCormick, for the record. As far as the funding of the judicial branch in Nevada, the Nevada Supreme Court and the Court of Appeals are entirely funded by the state, so through appropriations and authorizations made by this body. The district courts are where it starts getting a little different. The district judges themselves, so those 90 district judges, are actually funded by the state, and it's funded by the state in terms of their salaries. Everything else at the district court level is provided by the county. So, for example, in the 8th Judicial District, Chief Judge Weiss, who you'll hear from just shortly, his salary is paid by the state, but his staff, his office, his marshals, all that stuff is paid for by Clark County. So that's how that funding mechanism works. At the district court level, when we get down to the justice court, that is entirely paid for by the county. So that judge's salary, building, everything is county. And then at the city level, for municipal courts, that's all city. So that's how the funding sort of scheme breaks down.
Assemblywoman Gallant.
Thank you, Chair. I was, with your strategic study, I was very excited to see that you want to try to make this process like much more streamlined and easier for everyday people to be able to use it for like the lower courts. So, in terms of, so I'm in property management. I do like a lot of my own court stuff related to that. And forms are really difficult, particularly in Clark County, because you have Henderson, Las Vegas, North Las Vegas. And then, as we have, like through COVID, there's been a lot of updates to like being able to like meet on blue jeans and things like that. It is impossible to find the form for Las Vegas and North Las Vegas, but I could find it for Henderson. So I'm wondering if there's any plan to like kind of have a one-stop shop for all three, and be able to access those forms easily, and then also have a pathway on Tyler Host and Odyssey so that you have the correct code when you file it, so you don't keep getting it rejected. And also, sorry, one more thing. With Tyler Host, like I'm a business, like as a professional, I have an account, but is there going to be any access for like tenants to be able to have like a free account? Because most of the time their fees are waived in that case.
Catherine Stocks for the record. Thank you for that question. That actually is one of the larger projects that we used SLFRF funding for. We have partnered with the Legal Aid of Southern Nevada to create a statewide self-help portal. Part of our challenge that we have seen, especially related to forms, it's not just whether someone can fill out a form, it's whether the information being requested is understandable. So this isn't just making it the form available, this is making guided interviews in common language, taking out the legalese, not putting chattel in when you're trying to define something. So that is part of what we're working on, and the initial requirements have been done. We're starting with protection from abuse forms, intend to roll that out. So your note about the property forms. I can't speak to the Las Vegas piece and the Tyler Host piece as a decentralized state. We at the AOC are able to provide support to trial courts. We can't mandate what a trial court would do. However, this is a good discussion. I didn't hear it on the district court piece. That sounds like a justice court piece. We're happy to follow up to see about that. But when you do ask that question about will it eventually be available, yes, part of that vision for the statewide self-help portal is that it would then actually, after asking you questions through the guided interview, kind of like TurboTax does, it then creates your pleading for you. So that way the individual has a pleading that's ready to go that doesn't get rejected by a clerk because they didn't understand what line. It also protects court staff from being asked to provide information that might verge on that legal advice line. These are really good discussions to have about what that portal looks like going forward. And if you wanted to volunteer to do some of our user testing, okay, all right. Did I answer your entire question? As far as Tyler Host, we will have to find out and get back to you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Hardy?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for giving us this presentation. If you don't deal with law in courts, it can sometimes be quite confusing. So in that vein, if you could just maybe highlight some of the things that you mentioned you're doing to simplify and improve access for the lay person. You know, sometimes when I'm bored, I go on and try and look up, you know, like how easy is it to look up a case, or how easy is it if you're what you're trying to do, can you do that? So maybe some of the things you can access online, or I know there's the Civil Law Self-Help Center, just some highlights of what you are trying to do to make this more accessible and easier for just the lay person. Thank you.
Catherine Stocks for the record. Thank you for the question. In addition to the statewide self-help portal, we are actually working with the Civil Law Help Center, specifically the Family Law Self-Help Center at this moment, to get that off the ground so that we have the ability for anyone in Nevada to access support. Right now it is very confusing. If you go to the Supreme Court's website, you then have the option for 3 different types of forms, whether you're in Clark County, Washoe County, or the rest of the state. That is hard for a litigant when we don't have a system of substantively similar forms necessarily for someone to fill out. That for us is really step one. The other things we're doing to make it easier, and it's also related to the administration of the courts themselves. So the courts that don't have an IT department, they might not necessarily be able to help an individual be able to get their court filing. We have courts that are still using manual processes. We have 15 different case management systems across the state. So we did get the federal funds to not only do a statewide e-file option that's at no cost to the user, and then the updated case management system. Those are cloud-based systems. Part of what we've done is partnered with the Office of Science, Information, and Technology in the governor's office to include our courts into redundant broadband for our rural communities. Any court that doesn't have redundant broadband would be able to get that installed so that they can support the applications that we're trying to roll out, so that that self-help portal, even if it's not integrated into their case management system, but that pleading, giving the litigant the option, to get back to your question as I digress, giving the litigant the option to choose whether to print that out and go file it in person if they're more comfortable with that, or to be able to electronically submit it to the court, even if the e-file isn't rolled out yet. So much of this is about giving people options, right? Instead of a draconian rule that says you must file X by Y. Part of it also is coming up with ways in the systems that we're creating to we already do text notifications in some courts, but reminding individuals that want to be, that are willing to tell it. If my dentist can remind me or my hairstylist can remind me I have an appointment, the courts should be able to remind you you have an appointment in a while. And we do have courts already doing that. It's just making it so that we have those options available to the individual in as many places as possible in the state. But I'm really excited for what the self-help portal is going to start. We also, related to civil traffic, we did receive federal funds to get a civil traffic portal rolled out. It was from the time of being notified we were going to get the SLFRF funds, we had 5 months to create a system. So we have a minimum viable product. It does work for the courts. That has an online dispute resolution option in it. And so that is that next step of how do we get people to be able to talk to the court in the method and manner that they prefer. And so that idea of being able to do asynchronous chat, and you can answer, you know what, can I negotiate my ticket at 9 o'clock at night because that's when I'm home from work? Those are the options we're looking for. That's where we're headed. And so I get really excited about it. Sorry.
Thank you for the question. I believe that's the end of our questions from members. So with that, thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is from the Second Judicial Court of Nevada. We have the Honorable Lynn Simons and Court Administrator and Clerk of the Court, Alicia LaRue. Good morning. Did I say that correctly? You did. Thank you. So I'll give you a few minutes to get settled, and please proceed when you're ready.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and all of the members of the committee. I am so honored to have the option to speak to you today. I'm Chief Judge Lynn Simons of the Second Judicial District Court in Washoe County. With me today is Alicia LaRue, who is the court administrator and, as you indicated, the clerk of the court for the Second Judicial District Court. We want to be prepared to answer any questions and supplement any of the information we discuss. So between the two of us, hopefully we can. The Second Judicial District Court is Washoe County, is our jurisdiction, and our population, the people we serve, is 486,492 people. And I bring that up because our court is here for the people, and our court would not be here but for the people, that the staff, the judicial officers, and all of the support departments. We are considered, district courts are considered courts of general jurisdiction. We handle a myriad of case types, and we have a separate family division, and then the general jurisdiction handles pretty much everything else. We do not do traffic matters. That's the easiest way to explain what we do. We do appeals from the Justice Court. We also handle matters of original jurisdiction, such as civil litigation on matters in excess of $15,000 at issue. We handle gross misdemeanor and felonies, and we handle also guardianships, trust cases, probate cases, pretty much anything other than small claims, landlord-tenant, except if it's more than $15,000. We have 16 elected district court judges, 9 in general jurisdiction, which is where I am, and 7 in family division. We also have masters that provide great assistance to the judges, and we have 6 appointed judicial masters, including Discovery Commissioner, which handles discovery and civil, matters, the probate commissioner who handles probate and trust cases, and then 4 family division court masters. We have, and when I talk about the people, so we have 172 full-time employees, a $33 million budget. 25.6 million comes from the general fund, and 7.2 million in grant funding, which we actively seek for all of our different divisions. We, in calendar year 2022, we had over 500,000 filings in the Second Judicial District Court. We continue to seek out funding. We were able to acquire some funding, of course, during COVID. That was unique. But we also have individual managers that, particularly in specialty courts, that seek out available funding to continue to assist what is really an ever-changing and evolving workload. I think often the perception is that what a judicial officer does every day is puts their robe on and goes out on the bench and handles hearings and trials, which is what we do. In fact, I'm in the middle of a trial right now. But there is a whole lot that happens behind the scenes. The Second Judicial District Court is primarily written as far as issuing orders. We do not have a requirement of hearings on all matters, so there's a large amount of preparation that happens before hearings and then in our written orders. In addition, it's the business of the court. And traditionally, the Second Judicial District Court has had robust case and committee assignments. Not only do we have some courts that are parsed out, for instance, the business court, those cases are extremely complex and they require a lot of judicial energy and intellect. But also we parse out juvenile delinquency, dependency, probate and trust matters. For instance, we have 3 judges that serve as probate and trust judges, as well as the business court. We have committees, not only on this slide shows the various courts that we have, but on the right side, it really goes into some of our committees. And you probably will have the opportunity to meet with Judge Draculich, who is our legislative committee liaison and chair. We also have an active bench bar committees in various areas. It's our method for seeking input from the various attorneys that appear in front of us. We participate on state level committees as well as county. We have all the way from filing office steering to an IT committee to a rules committee, statistics, law library, and we also have, which is interesting in response to what your question was, I have one of the judges that I appointed to be in charge of forms. And to do those dry runs and have people try to fill them out, because as a practitioner, they were difficult. And we have, in our self-help and law library, we have numerous form packets. I want to say 137 form packets that someone can come in person. They're also available online. And I agree there is the fine line of providing legal advice as opposed to providing forms. We also have portals for Zoom and also access to e-filing as well. So someone can come in and do that if they don't have the resources. We have some, in addition to the business of court, we have an upcoming celebration, which I appointed Judge Breslow to handle, and I always struggle with this word, but sesquicentennial celebration. Let's just stick with 150 years. And so it's the 150th year of our Court Street. We usually have a really well represented and officials, elected officials from all over the state appear at our Flag Day. And we are combining it with the celebration regarding the courthouse. Judge Breslow has done a wonderful job. He has talked Washoe County staff into putting a new flag on the courthouse every day. And then we will be giving those out to various individuals at our Flag Day celebration, including some children and middle schoolers. We have, honestly, on some days we feel like our courthouse and its 150 years is falling down around our ears. It's a big challenge to run with technology in an older courthouse. And we were able to utilize some unexpected funds from COVID to enhance all of our technology in our courtrooms. It's required courtrooms to be down for numerous weeks. In addition, I wanted to turn to our case trends. We are back to all pre-pandemic filings. However, some civil cases, while not as much in number, are incredibly difficult in complexity. Our family levels they just expand and expand. The need is so great. It looks like we will have so far a dramatic increase in felony and gross misdemeanor criminal matters. And also our criminal trials are more complex than pre-pandemic. At some point, we had, with the pandemic, a lot more of the cases and with legislation that was enacted have been negotiated. For instance, drug cases, some of the lower categories. And what remains for us are category A and B. And so they take more time and they are more difficult. We also had an increase in domestic violence TPOs during and after the pandemic. And one of the mantras that we really have in the Second Judicial District Court is learning and evolving from everything that has happened. The pandemic was very challenging, and our mantra is keep the positive things from the pandemic and leave the rest. What does that mean? The discussion of virtual access to justice. In some of our courts, particularly, I run the young offender specialty court as one of my dockets, are 18 to 27-year-old. We have kept them virtual because that's their life. They're on their phones constantly. It's the best way to communicate with them. We've kept guardianships virtual because it protects those elder people that really should not be transported to the court, and we have arranged for them to have an iPad in whatever facility they're in. And so we really judges want people in person, and we want to have that decorum. But the realization is that Zoom can provide a tremendous access to justice, particularly in settlement conferences. I've had settlement conferences with 9 different parties across the United States and New Zealand that they could not come and participate but for our Zoom access. In addition, it really has helped with our lawyers in the library. This goes back to that help of self-represented litigants. We have a tremendous program where lawyers volunteer and people can come in and get advice. We have continued, and it is far more successful by virtual. And I have to thank the people that participate. Also, I just want to point out too, in addition, with the directive of the legislature with regard to releases and supervision, we have a robust pretrial release and supervision over defendants, so that we also have to balance with the overcrowding at the jail. And we have, I like to say that we're flexible, not pivoting. But even during the pandemic, we have continued with effective, efficient supervision of released individuals to ensure community safety, but also to ensure their appearances. Our challenge right now, of course, is in mental competency. It is, I'm sure that this body has heard about the challenges we face, not only with the increase in persons, but the overburdened process. I've appointed Judge Walker to handle all mental competency issues right now, to acquire resources, to engage with resources, and to centralize for more efficient and effective processing in mental competency cases. The Second Judicial District Court specialty programs, this is evolving. The need is so great. There are just simply some people that will keep cycling through the justice system when they really need help and they really need an intervention. And so we've created different courts and tracks. We are funded through the state, but also grants. You can see that for every $1 spent on specialty courts, we avoid 3 times that in costs. And you create relationships, and their successes are dramatic. As they relate to the judge. They don't want to disappoint the judge. And then if they are in a deferred, they don't have the felony on their record. But they've received treatment effectively through our providers. I want to thank you so much for having this opportunity and to give you an example of how our courts are changing. And I welcome any questions you might have.
Members? Doesn't look. Assemblywoman?
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. So being a Southern Nevadan, I always forget how long Washoe County is, and that it goes all the way up to the border. But Reno is, at the far end. So what are you doing for accessibility, or is there anything you can do for accessibility for your Washoe County residents that live at the north end of the county?
For us, it's really, Lynn Simons, Second Judicial District Court. For us, it's really that Zoom option. You find in the justice courts, that's really where you're going to have them in the different areas, and the municipal courts. For us, it's a Zoom option or appearances. Now, what we do have is we've developed a form that you can request a virtual hearing. And in some areas, it remains virtual, but trials are in person, and they need to come to the courthouse for trials.
Thank you for the follow-up. So are your judges more cognizant of people coming from such far distances, so that if a judge is going to set a trial for someone who's in Gerlach, that they're going to set it, the judge will set it as an afternoon, so that that person doesn't have to be on the road to get to the courthouse by 8 a.m., that type of thing?
Lynn Simons, it depends on the department. And certainly flexibility, usually they set for civil matters set through our judicial assistants, and so they can make that request. And so we'll find most of those items, those type of matters would be in the afternoon or on a certain day. And my department, we accommodate it all the time. On the other dates where it's criminal matters, those we have so many moving parts between transport and other persons attending those, and other courts that have to see defendants. Those are usually in the morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. We have a question from Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for presenting today. So we have heard for the last week and a half, many agencies are having challenges with staffing, recruitment, retention, and they said it was due to salary, to workloads, due to morale. And so I just wondered if that is an issue that you are facing and what you are doing to recruit and to retain, as well as if you could provide us a breakdown of your demographics within the court.
So Lynn Simons, I'll answer the broader part of that question, and then Ms. LaRue can provide some details. Yes, it is more difficult to hire. Many request a hybrid or flexible schedule, which that is a discussion amongst the judiciary, because some particular positions cannot be hybrid, but other positions can. I'll give you an example through just an individual chambers. We're having some difficulty hiring law clerks. which traditionally we never had that we had. So what we've been actively doing is contacting different schools and their career development departments. And that is one job that they miss out on seeing court proceedings, but they can do research from a distance. So often, we've also considered a policy regarding providing moving expenses, but you identified the issue right on the head.
Alicia LaRue, for the record, thank you for the question. To answer with respect to demographics, as of 1 month ago, we have 172 full-time employees, and our total employees, including intermittent staff, is 184. Out of that, we had 9 vacancies. With the exception of law clerks and with the exception of our staff that works 24/7 at the jail processing those pretrial assessments, we have not seen, and I should say technology. Technology is difficult right now to recruit and retain on. Otherwise, at the court level overall, we are still seeing effective recruitment processes. We are currently looking at our salaries. We have some other local agencies within Washoe County. They are doing salary assessments and compensation studies. We are looking at that to make sure that we do remain competitive and make sure that we don't end up losing staff because of that. Within, and I understand this committee has a much broader scope than just certainly the courts, I do believe that if you look within the criminal justice system as a whole, that you will find that there are recruitment and retention issues with respect to attorneys, criminal defense in particular right now in Washoe County. That is a challenge. We have a dearth of defense attorneys representing criminal defendants, and that grinds us at a court level to a halt. We can be fully staffed. It doesn't do us any good if we don't have defense counsel. I hope that that answered your question.
Thank you for the question. And Assemblywoman Gallant.
Thank you, Chair. So I pulled up your website, and it's like miles better than what I see in Clark County. So thank you. Lots of white space, very organized. I do have a question, though, because I'm seeing the standard free account. It seems like the person only has access if they're an active party or the attorney on record for a particular case. So if, say, like just a civilian wanted to file their first case, it doesn't appear like this would be an avenue that they could take. They would have to come in, or maybe I'm wrong. Just some clarification on that.
Alicia LaRue, for the record, if somebody is coming in to file their first case, then we will immediately get them set up with one of those free eFlex accounts. And those eFlex accounts enable any individual to access any case in which they are a participant. We also do have a paid option that's called a Global View account, and that's for whatever reason, individuals may have a professional interest in being able to go through all of the court files, and that can give you access to any public court filing. We also have free access to anything that is public through our law library, and then we have terminals set up throughout the courthouse for individuals who are physically at the court.
Thank you for your presentation. We don't have any additional questions from members right now, so thank you for that. With that, we will move on to our last presentation of the day, which is a presentation from the 8th Judicial Court of Nevada. We have the Honorable Jerry Weiss and the Court Executive Officer and Clerk of the Court, Stephen Grierson. So give you a few minutes of transition.
Good morning, Chair Miller and members of the committee. My name is Jerry Weiss. I'm honored to serve as the Chief Judge of the 8th Judicial District Court in Clark County. I'm here with our CEO, Steve Grierson. I want to begin by thanking all of you for giving us this opportunity to provide an overview of the court. chance to brag about my colleagues a little bit. I'm going to skip through a lot of these slides. I know that you all looked at this and saw there's a lot of slides. We're going to skip through a lot of them because people have already covered some of this stuff. As far as the organization of the courts, it's been covered, so we're going to skip through that. The introduction slide here, as you can see on the slide, it shows the historical growth of our court over the years and the way the legislature has helped us meet growing needs of Clark County with judicial resources. Most recently, in 2019, the legislature approved 6 new family departments, so we have 26 judicial departments in family court now and 32 in the civil criminal division. Currently, we have 58 total district court judges, 13 hearing masters who serve as quasi-judicial officers, 653 full and part-time employees. We had 74,060 new filings in 2022. That's new cases initiated. We're the busiest district court in the state. The high volume of those cases and constant fiscal pressures requires us to be efficient and innovative in trying to manage those cases to serve the community of Clark County. Our jurisdiction comes from the Nevada Constitution, Article 6, Chapter 3. A lot of this has already been covered. We covered civil claims for more than $15,000, felonies and gross misdemeanors. We have family and juvenile cases and appeals from justice and municipal court. A lot of these things have been covered by the other people, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on them. Our 32 departments in civil criminal division, we break that out, and people have different specialty assignments. We have 5 judges that handle our business court, which are very complex litigation, sometimes involving 30, 40 attorneys and parties. And sometimes those end up being 6 or 8 month long trials. So we have 5 judges do business court. We have 4 judges doing our homicide division, which they have a regular criminal calendar as well, but they also are the 4 judges that handle all of our homicide cases. And they've been able over the past several years to keep that in check. We have a growing number of homicides obviously in Southern Nevada, but they've been able to, I think, eliminate any backlog that we've had in those homicide cases. We also have recently initiated a medical malpractice court because of the number of medical malpractice cases that we have in Southern Nevada. We have 10 judges that are doing medical malpractice in addition to other general civil cases. Let's move on to the next slide. In our family division, we have 26 departments. Of those, we have 6 departments dedicated to juvenile dependency. We have 2 departments that do juvenile delinquency, 2 that are dedicated to guardianship cases, and the remaining 16 do civil domestic cases, which basically involve divorces and child custody cases, or divorces and child custody. We go to our court facilities. We have several different buildings that we are responsible for. The Regional Justice Center is home to most of our civil criminal departments and 7 of our family departments. A portion of our civil division is located at the Phoenix building. It's a small building across the street from the court. We have our family court where we have juvenile departments there. We also have a child support division that's housed in the Greystone complex on East Flamingo. And we're responsible for security and taking care of all of those buildings. I don't know that this is interesting to you or not, but for the RJC, our main building, we had 553,000 people visiting in 2022. And in the family court, we had 143,000. So, I mean, we've got a lot of people that come in and out of our court building. As far as funding is concerned, our funding is dictated by NRS 3.100. We're funded primarily through general fund dollars from the Clark County. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. If we go to the next slide talking about our fiscal year 23 budget, you'll see that most of our money comes from the Clark County General Fund. We have a total budget of $125 million plus. We have a lot of people to take care of and a lot of business that we conduct. So, if we go on to our next slide about funding, we put this in here just to show that we've been staying under budget, and we do the best we can with the money that's provided to us by the state and the county to try to make good choices with the money that we have and so far we've been able to stay under budget as long as I know, so that's our goal. Our total pending cases, I think this is important because just for the numbers, we have 5,443 pending criminal cases, over 30,000 civil cases, and over 32,000 in family court. We've made a concerted effort over the last few years to close completed cases and try to get rid of our backlog. We all know that there was a backlog that was created by COVID, but I think we've done great things to get rid of that backlog. And now anybody that wants to try their case in Vegas is, we're ready and willing to do that. And our backlog is essentially gone. We look at our case flow management slide. This slide shows number of criminal cases filed in 2022, 8,320 new cases filed, 13,000 closed. There were 93 criminal jury trials, 6 criminal bench trials last year. To give you a perspective, the last time we presented to the legislature, we had 28 criminal jury trials and 1 bench trial. That was during COVID, obviously, and we were struggling to find ways to serve the community, but the numbers are much larger. We put some of these slides in here just to show trends. The next one is our total criminal cases filed per year. As you can see, that's stayed fairly static over the years, and we have essentially the same number of cases that's being filed for the last 6 to 8 years. As far as our end-of-year pending criminal cases, you can see over the years that has actually gone down, and we attribute that primarily to the creation of our homicide team, as well as we have criminal settlement conferences that are happening now. And we're doing our best, like I said, to get rid of that backlog that's existed and providing people more access to justice in a more timely fashion. This next slide talks about civil case filings and civil trials. In our civil cases, you see that we've made great improvements. Last year we had 121 jury trials, 262 bench trials. Then we have our short trial program that's used in cases valued at under $50,000. They use a smaller jury. They have to be done in 1 day, and they handled 73 trials last year. We try our best to try to make our courtrooms available on Fridays to allow the short trial judges to come in and try these 1-day trials. It takes care of lots of business and gets rid of lots of cases off of our dockets. To give you perspective, when we presented last legislative session, there were 27 civil jury trials, 97 bench trials, and 19 short trials. So, again, substantially more work going on right now. If we go to the next slide, this just shows our specialized judges that we have hearing probate, complex business cases, construction defect cases, and medical malpractice cases. Our construction defect cases, you'll see, that number has dwindled over the years. MedMal has actually stayed pretty consistent, but we didn't used to have a special medical malpractice court. We've created that recently to try to make sure that we stay on top of those cases. Business court, you see the numbers there, 215 filings, 322 closures. Our goal is to always close more than we have filed, because that's the way that we can catch up and stay on top of cases. If we allow more filings to happen than closures, then we're never going to catch up. So that's why we have that. Our next slide just talks about civil filing trends. This is just for informational purposes, in case you're interested in the trends over the year. Civil case filings seem to be going down the last couple years. Don't know why that is, but it seems like that's what's happening. Our next slide shows the pending civil cases, and you'll see there's been a substantial decrease, and that's because of the work of our district court and getting rid of that backlog that we had from COVID. And we're really proud of that number that's gone down so much. Our next slide talks about different types of cases in the civil division with the number of cases pending. This is for informational purposes also. I'm just going to skip through that really quick. Our next slide talks about family filing statistics. Family court's also very active. There's a number of different case types. The family domestic is our largest, and generally those cases deal with divorces and child custody. There were 19,947 cases filed last year. We disposed of 26,134. So again, we're disposing of substantially more than what's being filed. We also have the child support cases, temporary protective orders, civil commitments, juvenile dependency. which are the abuse and neglect cases, and juvenile delinquency cases. So we have a lot of business going on there. Our next slide talks about the family court filing statistics in 2022. Again, our closure rate in the past has been about 110 to 120%. Our closure rate for the last couple of years has been more like 200% because we're trying to get caught up on what happened with COVID. So you'll see just huge closure rates as opposed to new filing rates. And I think that's evidence that all the judges in Clark County are just working really hard. And we're ready to try cases when parties and attorneys are ready now. I did want to also focus on the fact that we have settlement conferences in family, civil, criminal, in just about every case type. We do settlement conferences. We have different settlement conference programs with our judges and also with the senior judges that we use from the retired judges through the Supreme Court. And we also have overflow programs in our civil and criminal divisions so that if a judge is scheduled to do 2 trials at a time, they can send one of those cases to overflow. We try to make it so anybody that wants to do a trial, we can get their trial done. Next slide talks about various trends in the family division. You'll see that those numbers have remained high over many years. That's not changing. Our next slide talks about, again, various trends in family division. End of year pending family domestic cases. The last couple of years have gone down. That's our goal, is to keep those pending cases going down. Next slide talks about family filing statistics. These are different kinds of cases that are pending in family court. That's for informational purposes. If you have questions about that, we can address it. Our next slide talks about specialty courts. We have lots of specialty courts. We have 15 specialty court programs. We have 5 judges and 4 hearing masters that preside over these various courts. During your fiscal year 23, we were fortunate to expand, and we have a new Empower program that addresses adolescent domestic violence. You'll see that some of these courts are handled by judges, some of them by hearing masters. There's always a judge that presides over the hearing master, but a lot of these are handled by hearing masters as well. I'm going to talk more about specialty courts. You'll see a couple of slides here. There's a slide with 2021 statistics and a slide with 2022 statistics. We put those in there just so you can compare and contrast how things have improved or changed over the last couple of years. Then we get to our specialty court recidivism slide. I want to spend just a minute on this because I'm really impressed and really proud of the people that we work with because of this slide. If you look at the stats as far as recidivism are concerned, and just so you know, these look at 3 years post-discharge. So the data is from 2018 participants and program data. So we look at, in the Supreme Court and nationwide, I think they're looking at recidivism rates for 3 years. So we look at somebody that graduated or didn't graduate in the 2018 year, and did they commit a new crime in the last 3 years. If you look just at the adult drug court numbers, we have 92.1% of those people who graduated from adult drug court did not commit another crime and were not convicted in the next 3 years. So that's a big number, 90%. I mean, that means we're 90% effective in our specialty courts. If you look at the unsuccessful rate, you're looking at a number that's 80.9%. So even those people who are unsuccessful and don't graduate from the specialty court program learn enough in there that they are not committing crimes over the next 3 years. And you may wonder, well, if it's only a 10% difference, why are we spending all the money on these specialty courts? So, and I had that question. So we went back and looked at the average time in treatment for even those people who are not successful is 9 months plus. So what that tells us is the more time we're able to keep people in treatment, the more successful they are, and the better we do in keeping people from committing crimes in the future. So we're really happy with our specialty courts and what we're able to accomplish there. The next couple of slides, this one talks about gender and demographic statistics. That is just in case you're interested in that. Our next slide talks about funding for specialty court, and we need a lot of money for our specialty court. We have a lot of participants. You'll see that there are a lot of grants here. We have money from AOC, but we do go out and get a lot of money from grants because we know that this is important. We do what we can to provide the services we can for our people. The next slide talks about CASA, and Mr. Grierson was instrumental in developing and keeping and growing this, so I want him to talk about CASA.
Thank you, Chief. Steve Gerson for the record. The CASA program is a program that's statutorily created for our family division to create a system wherein volunteers are trained to be appointed by our family division dependency judges to express the best interests of a child that's been petitioned into our abuse and neglect system. In Clark County, there's over 3,200 of these children and working their way through the system. So our CASA program is something that is vitally important because it's an objective, neutral, complete volunteer who creates a relationship with that child and expresses the best interest regardless of the judge, regardless of the system. And it's a pretty special thing to watch. And the only way that these programs are successful is for them to be funded and supported. And here's a great example of our Clark County management team and our Clark County commissioners agreeing that this is really an important part of their overall strategy to help children. And they invested a significant amount of money to try to get the word out that these volunteers are important in our community. And so we've really energized in partnership with our Clark County commissioners and county management team to invest in CASA. And so there's some of the results show up here. I'll take you down to kind of the bolded points. We applied to be a Best of Las Vegas, and we're pretty happy that lots of votes came in for us. So we were a bronze winner for the volunteer, best volunteer opportunity. So when you invest in media, I don't know if anybody's in Southern Nevada or even Northern Nevada has kind of watched, but media should be appearing more frequently and often on television and radio. And so in 20 to 21, the process of volunteers is very difficult. The volunteer on their own time spend a lot of time with these children, and volunteering to be a part of that type of case is quite a commitment. I mean, I've always said that I think it's the most honorable volunteer opportunity because it's just so honorable. It just is honorable. And in 20 and 21, we had 460 inquiries to become a volunteer, and then we started to invest money, and we doubled the size of our inquiries just to become a volunteer. And you have to inquire because people are looking to see if this is a volunteer opportunity that's right for them. I've always said that if your heart is ready and the time is right, then the cost of volunteering is perfect. But those two elements have to be there, and then that volunteer opportunity just starts to take off, and it's really, it's a long-term commitment too. We ask for 2 years of volunteering so that they can stabilize with that child and they can depend on their CASA volunteer. So right now we're on tap to get 1,000 inquiries this year, so we're really excited. We're also really excited. We have we're located on the family court campus down there, and there's an old Forte Hall building down there. And one of our favorite CASAs for many, many, many years was Tyrone Thompson. And there was a groundswell over the last year to try to get that building to represent our appreciation and respect for Tyrone and all the things that he did for CASA. And so we show just kind of as a feel-good piece the agenda item that your Clark County commissioners approved the renaming of that building in his name. So it was really special. We have really, really large plans and really big dreams for it. So if anybody's interested in becoming part of that dream, feel free to contact us at the court. The last slide is we had the National CASA Volunteer of the Year out of our Clark County CASA Volunteer Program. There's 96,000 CASA volunteers across America, and she was selected. She's been a CASA volunteer for 41 years. And she was selected, and we all flew up to Seattle, and she received this award. And this is just a photo of her getting a proclamation from the Clark County Commissioners recognizing her as the National CASA Volunteer of the Year. So it was pretty special. Thanks, Chief.
Jerry Weiss again. This next slide just talks about our judicial workload, and I know that some of our prior individuals talked about this. And I know that as legislators, you wonder, what do judges do? Obviously, we do trials and we do hearings when there's motions. If you look at the trial number, we talked about those numbers already. The hearings, we conducted 180,411 hearings in 2022. The orders and warrants, these are things that we do when we're not on the bench. When we're not on the bench, the study, research, and review, obviously we have to prepare for when we're doing a hearing or a trial. The orders is something that our IT department came up with a program recently called OIC, Orders in the Court, that allows us to track the orders that are signed, and it also provides us a much easier way to have timely orders signed and processed. So I want to go to the next slide. This just talks about our orders and warrants. The orders that we signed throughout 2022, 231,353 orders. There's over 9,000 warrants that were signed on behalf of the police department. We're very proud of the work that we've done. This is not a 9-to-5 job. If I found it interesting, we ran a report the other day just to see how many of these orders and warrants were being done during work days versus being done after hours and on weekends. And we had 75,000 plus warrants and orders that were signed either after hours or on the weekends. So our judges are working hard 7 days a week. And we're very proud of them, very, very proud of the work that we're able to do and service that we're able to provide for the community. And we thank you for your time. Hopefully I stayed under 15 minutes. Ready to take questions.
Thank you so much for your presentation. With that, we will open it up for questions, beginning with Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Judge Weiss. Sorry, I've forgotten your name for the
Mr. Grierson.
Mr. Grierson, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for the quick but very informative presentation. So I want to ask two quick questions, and one was you were talking about the criminal settlement conferences. Do you have data or information that you can share with us on the types of cases that are being settled with the criminal settlement conferences? And I have a similar question regarding, yes, and a separate question regarding family protective orders. You said that, I'm looking at this slide, and they're pretty much on par. There's just a difference of 10,361 that were filed and 10,622 that were disposed. Can you talk to us when we talk about protective orders, when we're taking children away from their families, how much of this is related to homelessness? So I'd appreciate if you could give us some insight on that.
So, Jerry Weiss, I can at least comment on the first one. As far as the criminal settlement conferences, the types, I believe we're handling just about every type of criminal case that's filed. I know that I don't know that we settle a lot of murder trials or murder cases, but I know that there have been some that have gone to settlement conferences. And I think we do those all the way down to the gross misdemeanors. So anything that somebody is going to go to a trial on, we do settlement conferences if the parties and the attorneys are willing to work towards things. I don't know what our exact numbers are and our success rate on that, but I know that we've settled a lot of cases through that program. As far as the family protective orders, do you know the answer to that? We can get you the information, but I don't know the answer to that question. I apologize.
Thank you.
And please, if you could submit that to the committee, because pertaining to the Assemblywoman's question, I'm sure there's other people that have interest in that as well.
Absolutely. We do have, I know that we have a number of hearing masters that handle protective orders on a 5-day-a-week basis. As far as the specific answer to your question, we just don't have those stats with us.
Assemblywoman, did you want to follow up to that, to be more specific or specify another?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So regarding the settlement conferences, and that's a concern or just a question, and just interest in the data because of the number of cases where people get criminal convictions or they take a deal without going to trial, and how that affects long-term people's, their lives, and whether or not people are understanding the importance of the result of a compromise. It's the same thing, it's a conviction. And so whether or not this is a clear process to them, I know many of these folks are represented by counsel, but we know that a lot of people settled their criminal convictions, and it's of concern. But with the family stuff, I went on a tour with Clark County to some of their services that they help for homeless families. And there was a discussion about how a lot of folks who are experiencing homelessness are losing custody of their children, and how they are trying to do some reunification with families in Clark County. And so I was wondering if you all had any data through the family court area with how many people are losing kids for homelessness, which I think they qualify as neglect, and where the unification is coming from. And I think that's very interesting, that when you're homeless and you lose your kids, it's classified as neglect. And so just trying to get some understanding there. Thank you.
Jerry Weiss again. I think it's a good question. I don't know that homelessness is something that we track for each case, but if it's not, it probably should be, and it's something that we should keep track of. So let me check with our family division, and I'll get you the information. We'll get it for the whole committee.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, could you include the definition that the courts is using for homelessness? Because I know typically many people assume homelessness would infer, unhoused, not having actual consistent shelter, right? And so people that are literally living and sleeping on the streets. Except for I know in the school district, the definition of homelessness is much broader. So those would include individuals who may have structural shelter, but it's not their own. So as we would say, you're going from home to home, couch to couch, this person's place today, that person's next week. That's still under the definition of homelessness. So again, I think it would help clarify for us if we understood the actual definition that the courts were using.
Again, Jerry Weiss, I'll find that out, but I don't know that the courts would be finding somebody was either abusive or neglecting based on the definition or term of homelessness. I think they're looking at the best interests of the children and trying to decide what's in their best interest. And if, I don't know that homelessness actually comes into play in that, but I'll find out.
And if it doesn't, we'd love to hear that too.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Assemblywoman Cohen.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I was going to ask some questions about specialty courts and what the different courts had to offer, and then I went to your website and found that list. So, however, Judge, I would like to ask about your Lima diversion program. Can you give us more details about that? And as we've talked about in this committee frequently, mental health and addiction often go hand in hand with court intervention, and so how is that program helping, and what does the program entail?
I believe I have some notes on it. Let me see if I can find it. Is this something you can take really fast? We'll let Mr.
Steve Gerson for the record. Lima is a very unique program for the 8th Judicial District Court. Its genesis was at the request of the Department of Health and Human Services to try to find a way to divert people entirely from entering the felony system. And when they originally approached us, we're supposed to handle cases in jurisdictions that have cases filed. And so diversion and deflection is way out in front of the court systems. But our district court is in a place where we can attempt to try to support those types of programs. And the Department of Health and Human Services gave us a grant to start that. And we created a coordinator that is the central hub of all of the referrals from Metro police officers. And when they're out in the community, they find cases and folks that they believe don't belong or they believe shouldn't be cited and arrested to go into the system, and they make the referral to the coordinator. And our contracts for treatment services are all, because we have so many of them for so many of our other specialty courts, they apply to this particular same population because they're just people. And so the referrals come into the coordinators, and it's an absolutely wonderful project to see these graduates. They have a graduation over at the Metropolitan Police Department offices, and so it's purely deflection and diversion for the district court. Very successful.
Thank you for the question. Next question is from Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for this presentation. So my question to you is the same that I had for Second Judicial, which is the breakdown of demographics of your employees, the staffing challenges you are facing, and the steps you're taking to address those.
Jerry Weiss, I can tell you as far as our judges are concerned, and I will let Mr. Grierson talk if he can about the rest of our employees. As far as our judges are concerned, we have in our civil criminal division, as far as the gender breakdown, we have 24 females and 6 males. We have 2 vacant seats. In our family division, we have 16 females and 7 males with 3 vacant seats. Overall, it's 40 females and 13 males. That takes care. That's the judges. As far as the rest of the employees, I'm going to let Mr. Grierson say if he knows.
Steve Grierson for the record. There's a report that is done I think it's every other year on your demographics and whether or not, or it just gives you a report from on labor and whether or not your population is appropriate. And I will get that report and provide it to the committee. It explains everything in their analysis of our demographics of our employees. With respect to recruiting, we've modified our recruitment strategy based on the fact that it's difficult to employ and then retain employees right now. But we have very few vacancies because we're recruiting to a pre-select list. We're not recruiting to the vacancy anymore. We're recruiting, if we have an opening, we're recruiting to a pre-select list, the people that are eligible to be hired. So if someone leaves, we can go right to the next person on the list and make an immediate offer. So our response to, or our efforts on retention and keeping vacancies full is much better now because of that approach.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblyman Orlicker.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. My question has to do with efforts to promote the quality of judging. I know when I go to cast my ballot and I'm always unsure who should I vote for, and I feel I'm pretty sophisticated in this area, so and it's one of the questions I get asked a lot when I go door to door. Can you give me advice on the judicial races? So it strikes me it's not the best way to promote quality to have you go before the voters, and you do have the courts of appeal who can reverse you. But I wonder what you do internally, and I'm thinking of some models from my academic life. It's like, for example, we do peer assessments of professors who are on the tenure track where the more senior colleagues go and observe classes and write reviews and provide advice. And I remember when I was in medical school, the best teaching was in our anatomy course because the whole department would sit in during the lectures, and so the professor lecturing, all their peers were there. So do you do anything like that with peer assessments so you can make sure you get to the highest quality of judging?
Jerry Weiss, thank you for the question. I guess we do have, when a new judge starts, we have an orientation that our administrative staff does. We also have training that the judges do for each other. We've got several new judges right now that have just recently started in the past couple of months, and we're working on putting together a training program for them that the other judges can provide to answer questions and provide some guidance on things that a new judge may not understand that may be coming down the pike. We also have, through the AOC, we have a district judges conference every year where we meet for a week and we get training on things that are up and coming and things that the Supreme Court and the AOC thinks that we need additional training on. Each new judge has to go through a 2-week general jurisdiction training at the National Judicial College up here in Reno. And we also have to do an ethics training. The family judges have to do an extra 4.5-day training. So we have those kind of training opportunities. As far as peer review with one judge looking over another judge's shoulder, it's a little bit difficult to do that with elected officials. I like the idea. But I think it's more difficult to implement than we would like to think. I don't know that the judges who may need the extra help would be willing to have somebody looking over their shoulder or watching their hearings. But we can look into that. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question from Assemblywoman Newby.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you for your presentation. 8th Judicial District Court exists in a very, very diverse community. How do you ensure equal access to justice with folks that may have a language barrier or cultural barriers to the way that our judicial system is set up?
I'm going to let Mr. Gerson take that one.
Steve Gerson, for the record. Our best approach for that has been through our legal aid center relationship for access to justice and the ability for people to file forms, get guidance on how to file forms, and many of our forms are available through guided interviews, and you can do them from the convenience of your home. The questions are very, well, they're formatted by the Legal Aid Center of Southern Nevada, so they're trying to help them guide what the answers, not what they should be, but what it is that they have to answer in order for their case to get heard and to have access to a decision or whatever the next step is. So our best effort is through our legal aid centers, I think, for that particular concept.
Are you,
Please.
continue?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Speaking directly then towards the language barrier, I'm assuming you have translators. Can you talk just a little bit about that and the efficacy of that program?
Steve Gerson, for the record. Yeah, we have full-time interpreters on staff that are funded by Clark County. We also have a variety of contract interpreters in many different languages. And there are, now with technology, it makes it much easier for someone or an interpreter to consult with any area of all of Clark County, actually. These interpreters also provide services to DFS and DJJS if they need it or if they need a call in. So yeah, I believe we have approximately 10 interpreters full-time and probably 40 to 50 contractors in a variety of languages. We even actually flew people in from, I believe it was Utah or Colorado for a trial that had German because the case was in German. So yes, we have a robust interpreter language barrier reduction or ability to handle almost all languages. I don't know of one we haven't been able to handle yet.
So I'd like to follow up on that. So when you say a variety of languages, you know what question's coming. How many languages? Because with 10 interpreters and just knowing the statistics here in Clark County, even 10 languages isn't representative of our Nevadans. So can you tell us maybe how many languages they specialize in and which languages?
Steve Gerson, for the record. The full-time interpreters are for Spanish. The contract interpreters cover all of the other languages that we can think of. There is a list. I have a list of all of the languages that we cover, and I will provide that to you. It is a long list of languages.
Is it over 100?
I would say it's approximately 50, if I remember correctly, of the different languages.
Okay, so it's close to half of what's spoken in Southern Nevada. So again, making sure that the ability to have interpreters for all of our different languages. So I would love to cross-reference that list with you. Okay, thank you. I believe that is the end of our members' questions. So thank you so much for your presentation. And we will move on to our last agenda item, which is public comment. And so for public comment, I will say the phone number now for anyone interested in dialing in. It is 1-669-900-6833, and the meeting ID is 878-365-88416. So with that, if there's anyone here in Carson City that would like to make public comment, please approach. And of course, we all asking everyone to keep it to 2 minutes. When you're ready, Ms. Brown, please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members of the committee. Tanya Brown, spelled Tonja Brown, advocates for the inmates and the innocent, for the record. I'd like to thank the presenters today, but I would like to also let you know that there's some things that I have made known to them which they are not familiar with, and I would like to bring that to your attention as well. There is issues and concerns dealing with the filing clerk's office. In some of the cases, particularly the older cases, they cannot be found in the computer system. They don't even exist. And sometimes you have to have some discussions with the filing clerk's office to tell them that, yes, it is there. And they'll tell you, no, it is not. So if you are fortunate enough to know the case number, dealing with the Supreme Court now, you can go down into the law library and have it pulled up on microfilm. This is not acceptable, particularly for those who are maintaining their innocence. These petitions have to have this type of information. And also, with the Second Judicial District Court, there's the same concern there. You can go online, some of the cases aren't even there, and where you can find them or locate them is that they are in an off-site facility, storage facility. And again, you have to have the case number. So these are major concerns. And so just not, it makes not just those who are maintaining their innocence who want to file a factual innocence petition, but for those who are looking for cases. And with the petition for factual innocence, you can find exhibits and evidence in those cases going back to the original post-conviction. And these cases are not being transferred from there into the computer system into the Supreme Court. They're lacking, they're missing. Also, I would just like to make a brief comment. There was a discussion about the death penalty on the cost. Now, I can tell you over the years, there has been information provided to the committees and hearings. The cost to prosecute and to carry it out is approximately $1 million, if that helps. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. Is there anyone else here in Carson that would like to provide public comment? Anyone in Las Vegas who would like to provide public comment? Broadcasting, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Anne Marie Grant, advocates for the inmates and the innocent. For the record, I would like to echo Ms. Brown's testimony and add that I was there when Ms. Brown had to request post-conviction filings be retrieved from the archives off-site facility. The documents and supporting exhibits of a 1990 post-conviction petition, Second Judicial Case Number CB903087. This case was appealed to the Nevada Supreme Court. However, the actual case that was appealed is not registered in the computer system. It can only be found in the Nevada Supreme Court Library on microfilm. Anyone looking for that case won't find it, as DDA Abe Noble, who did a CIC review, could not have found it. They were not available at the Washoe County Courthouse because they were being stored at an off-site facility. I've listened to a 1989 direct appeal oral argument of a man who maintained his innocence. I quote DDA Sage. The state submits that the case was not closed in the composite comparison with the booking photograph. The state submits is more accurately described in the state's brief. The state's Exhibit 11, the composite that was drawn, is virtually identical to the booking photograph introduced of the defendant. The only difference is the fact that in the composite, the mustache failed to come below the line of the lip, and in the booking photograph, the defendant's mustache came below. Other than that, the length of the hair, the way it falls on the face, the mustache, the nose, it's an identical composite. So when these witnesses were giving their description of the defendant, they had the defendant's picture drawn virtually identical, save for the one aspect of how far the mustache goes down, end quote. I have submitted the May 1988 photo lineup and the September 1988 booking photo. The photo lineup and booking pictures were reversed. The defendant had a beard during the time of the crime, but when the defendant was arrested in September, he had a 2 to 3 day old beard. I've submitted documents for the record, including a link to the audio. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comment. Is there anyone else on the line broadcasting?
Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no other callers to participate at this time.
Okay, thank you. And so with that, we have completed our business for today. Just want everyone to know that beginning with next week, we still have one presentation on Wednesday, I believe, but the rest will be complete bill hearings for the days. And because of the nature of the bills that we have on Monday, we are comfortable with changing our start time to 9 a.m. And with that, oh, a lot of smiles. And with that, we will go ahead and adjourn. Thank you. Have a great weekend.